Hello and welcome to the second match of the March Madness tournament. Today, Esper artifacts will be facing Grixis control. We will be playing out the Esper side, while Yurtle will be on Grixis. In game 1, we mulligan our first hand as well as our second hand, only to keep a one-lander, but we are on the draw, and opponent leads with a Guildgate. We draw another land, which is good, and play our tri-land. Opponent passes with 2 mana available, and we play our second tapped land, and an end of turn Traumatic Visions will grab an island, and Yurtle will play that island and pass a turn. We draw a swamp, which is good, and can play a Glaze Fiend with Vapor Snag backup, and it's gonna be a Think Twice to draw a card and a swamp, passing the turn. And here we draw an Ethereum Sculptor, which we can play, but we decide to run out the Tidehollow Strix instead, trying to pump the Glaze Fiend, and a Shock is gonna try and take it out, but we're gonna save it with Vapor Snag, which is otherwise not a very good card in the matchup. And that's another flashback Think Twice to draw a card, and Banefire is going to take out the Tidehollow Strix, passing the turn, and we draw a Plains. So here we have a ton of options available, but we will end up playing the Ethereum Sculptor as well as the Glaze Fiend to try and put some board presence online. And we pass a turn. That's another end of turn Think Twice to draw a card, a 5th land, and passing of the turn. And here we can play Darksteel Ingot to try and pump the Glaze Fiend, which is successful. And we will decide to attack with the Glaze Fiend and the Sculptor. And Augur Spree is gonna take out the Glaze Fiend. And now we can play the Sanctum Gargoyle to get back a Tidehollow Strix. We did not play it pre-combat to try and save it from removal. And here our opponent has a lot of options available, I'm sure, but passes the turn with 5 mana available. We attack with our creatures and deal 3 damage to the opponent, putting him at 16 life, and play a Glaze Fiend. Augur Spree is gonna take out the Sanctum Gargoyle, a 6th land for the opponent, and a passing of the turn. We draw another land and play our Strix main phase 1 to pump the Glaze Fiend, go to attacks, and that's going to be 3 damage, putting the opponent down to 13, and an end of turn Inspiration to draw 2 more cards, and that's an Inferno Titan, which is gonna be able to ping 3 damage, taking out the Strix and the Ethereum Sculptor, but we do have the Reprisal to kill the Titan right away. Then we play our Strix and a Esper Zoa to pump the Glaze Fiend twice, dealing 4, opponent down to 9 life. Resounding Thunder is gonna take out the Esper Zoa, but we top deck another Esper Zoa right away, which we're gonna play trying to pump the Glaze Fiend. Inspiration fails to find a shock to take out the Glaze Fiend, so we can attack for 4 damage, putting the opponent down to 5 life. So now it's gonna be Anger of the Gods or bust. So another Inspiration is gonna dig for that Anger of the Gods, but our opponent does not find it. So he has to pass the turn, and we can simply return the ingot, and we'll also play the Sanctum Gargoyle in our first main phase, pumping the Glaze Fiend and returning another Esper Zoa, and an attack with all our creatures will be enough to win the game. So now Esper Artifacts is up 1-0 over Grixis control. In game 2 we keep our opening hand while our opponent has to go down to 6 cards. We play our Arcane Sanctum and pass. Opponent is going to lead with a mountain. We run out our Ethereum Sculptor, but it gets killed right away by a shock. And our opponent is going to play an island and pass a turn. And here we decide to play out our Capsule, since we don't have any other plays available. And a Guildgate is going to pass a turn. And here we decide to run out the Sanctum Gargoyle, returning the Ethereum Sculptor, and pass a turn. And that's going to be an end of turn Traumatic Visions to fetch a swamp, which your opponent is going to play, and another passing of the turn. Here we have a lot of options available once again, but we decide to run out the Ethereum Sculptor followed by a Bindant of Thassa, hoping our Gargoyle connects, and he is going to hit the opponent for 2 damage and draws a card. And our opponent is going to cast an Anger of the Gods, exiling both of our creatures. And here we decide to run out the Tidehollow Strix as well as the Esper Zoa, and we pass the turn. And that's going to be a Banefire for 1, taking out the Tidehollow Strix. and our opponent will pause a turn. We have to return the capsule to our hand with the Esper Zoa trigger, and a Tribute to Hunger is going to try and kill the Esper Zoa, but we can return it with a Vapor Snag, and we'll replay it as well as the capsule. So we pause a turn, our opponent now has 6 mana available and passes a turn as well. We return the capsule with the Esper Zoa, and we will play it out. We attack for 4, but Augur Spree is going to kill the Esper Zoa. We try and dig for another Vapor Snag, but we don't find it, so we end up replaying another capsule. That's an end of turn Think Twice to draw a card, and our opponent is going to play another Inspiration to draw 2 cards, and a Mountain and pause a turn. Here we draw another Esper Zoa, but we run out the Sanctum Gargoyle, returning another Esper Zoa, and we play it out as well. But Tribute to Hunger is going to kill our Sanctum Gargoyle and gain our opponent 3 life. Another Inspiration to draw 2 more cards, and another Passing of the turn. Esper Zoa returns the capsule to our hand. We want to attack, but another Augur Spree takes out the Esper Zoa, but we replay the second one as well as the 2 capsules. So we pause a turn, opponent plays an Inferno Titan, which is going to kill the Esper Zoa when it enters the battlefield. Opponent passes a turn, we find yet another capsule, activate 1 to draw 2 cards, Reprisal takes out the Inferno Titan, and we try to dig for more creatures, but we just find more lands, so we play the Glaze Fiend and pause a turn, but Shock is going to kill the Glaze Fiend right away. Our opponent does not want us to draw any cards with that Bident in play, so we play out the Darksteel Ingot as well as the Courier's Capsule, activate it right away but draw more lands, think twice to draw a card, flash it back to draw yet another card, and pause the turn with 3 mana available. We try and play Sanctum Gargoyle, and it's gonna return another Sanctum Gargoyle, which we will play to return an Esper Zoa, which we will also play in the same turn. So we pause the turn, Resounding Thunder takes out Esper Zoa, a second Resounding Thunder takes out the first Gargoyle, and a Banefire takes out the second one, passing the turn with 1 mana available. And we will draw a Vapor Snag, which is not a very good card at this point. Our opponent plays an Obelisk of Alara, which is going to slowly win him the game, and we play a Glaze Fiend, pause the turn, Obelisk gets activated to draw and discard, discarding Kozilek to reshuffle the graveyard into the library, passing the turn with Obelisk available. We try and attack, but nothing happens, and we pause the turn, Obelisk gets activated to take out the Glaze Fiend, and here a Runescar Demon is gonna get a clock on us very quickly. We draw a Darksteel Axe, which we will not bother playing here. Obelisk's red ability gets activated, dealing us 3 damage, and here an attack for 6 puts us down to 10 life, and an Inspiration will draw our opponent 2 more cards. We draw an Ethereum Sculptor, which is not really gonna get the job done, but we might as well play it here. And an Obelisk gets activated once again to deal 3, and now we're forced to use the Vapor Snag on the Demon, which is not great value for us, but it gets negated anyways, so we take 6, Obelisk gets activated once again, and we're dead. So it's a 1 apiece, and everything will be decided in the 3rd and final game. The winner will advance to the next round, while the loser will be eliminated from the tournament. The 3rd game starts off with a very interesting opening hand, which we will keep. Our opponent leads with a Guildgate, and we do as well. A Mountain and a Passing of the turn. We play an Island and our Strix, but a Shock is going to kill it at the end of turn. Our opponent plays another tapped land and passes a turn. And here we can play the Glaze Fiend, which is slightly better now. And our opponent passes a turn with 4 mana available. We will play the Amulet to try and pump the Glaze Fiend, which works. Now we try and play the Strix, but now the Glaze Fiend will get killed by a Resounding Thunder, so we pass a turn. Now our opponent has 4 mana available and passes a turn, so he has some mana issues. We attack for 2 and that works, opponent down to 18 life. We activate the Amulet, getting a Plains. We can play another Strix as well as the Plains and pass a turn. Inspiration to draw 2 cards, and our opponent seems to be stuck on 4 lands. We attack with both our Strixes, one gets killed by a Shock and the other one by a second Shock. Here we have a lot of options available, but we decide not to expose our 4/4 flyer to a Tribute to Hunger, so instead we run out the Strix and a Capsule. So now if our opponent has a Tribute to Hunger, we can sacrifice the Strix instead. Traumatic Visions gets land cycled to find a swamp, which our opponent will play. We attack for 2, that works, our opponent's down to 16, and now we can play our 4/4 flyer. Our opponent draws a card with Think Twice and passes the turn with 6 mana available. We decide to attack first, 6 damage puts the opponent down to 10. We decide to activate our Capsule, which finds us some mana fixing, and now we decide to run out the Gargoyle, returning the Capsule for some more card advantage, and that's another Think Twice to draw a card, and that's going to be an Augur Spree, taking out our big flyer. So now our creatures will be exposed to an Anger of the Gods, which will exile them as well. Now we have some options available, but we decide to run out the Ingot, as well as the Sanctum Gargoyle, which returns our Tower Gargoyle, which will be pretty good here. And we can run out the Capsule as well. Another Think Twice to draw our opponent a card. Another tapped land, passing of the turn. Here we have a Bident of Thassa, which we will play out, but a negate gets rid of it. We attack for 2, and that connects, opponent down to 8. We activate the Capsule, finding a land, so we can play our Towering Gargoyle. Resounding Thunder takes out our first Gargoyle, and now a Tribute to Hunger will take care of the 4/4 flyer. And now all we're left with is a Capsule, which we will activate right away, and it finds us an Esper Zoa and a Sharding Sphinx. An interesting decision, but we decide to run out the Esper Zoa first to try and get value right away from the Sphinx, but a Tribute to Hunger takes care of it, and now a Runescar Demon will make it very difficult for us to get through. And now we have a Darksteel Ingot as well. We decide to play out the Sphinx, so our opponent might be discouraged from attacking, and our opponent is going to attack anyways. We take 6 down to 14, and that's the second Runescar Demon, which was likely searched up with the first one. Now the opponent gets to search up yet another card. We can't attack, we can't play anything here, so we pass an attack for 12, which we will take. So we go down to 2 life, and that's an Inferno Titan, which will be able to kill us. So Grixis Control defeats Esper Artifacts 2 games to 1, and it will advance to the next round, where it will be facing Izzet Burn. I wanna thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.